Now, Mr. Pritchett, can you take your mind back to the good old days of steam and the traction engines that used to ply around the countryside?
Of course you can. That was the best days. That was the happiest days. Everything. And men was contented, and we used to get black. But when we never took notice of that, because there was terrible dust to the corn, you know, when you was threshing. Terrible.
Yes. Now, these traction engines, were there very many around this area?
Oh yes, good different people had them. My father had them, and Coles at Ashbrook, Bert Guest, and Blacko's at Northleach. It was all, well, I wanted them, because they all had to be threshed, all this corn years ago, you know. It wasn't like the lazy combines, you know.
No.
No. Yeah, I was proper pals of mine. Proper pals.
They were?
I thought as much that old Indian as I did. Well, I did anything to. Oh, I used to paint her up in the summer, you know, and make a fuss on her. Oh, I loved traction engines. Oh, I used to keep her clean. And, well, I thought the world on her.
Yes.
Oh, I looked nice, you know. Oh, I used to be sorry for her sometimes when we stood in the dust.
Yes.
You know, sometimes the dust would come back to the old engine. Well, I had to get up in the morning and bike 7 mile. And then you used to put some straw in the firebox and put some coal on the top, don't you see? And then you had to trust the Providence about her drawing. Because sometimes they would draw like the devil, and the next time wouldn't. You know, get the wind, get the duppity wind, you had a double of a job. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd go on to terrible. Oh, I love that old engine.
There's no doubt about it, the shore horse has been with us for so many hundreds of years. It's come right from the Old English war horse with introduction of Flemish blood and some other importations, but it's been perfected, and it was at the height of its perfection, I should say, in the 19th century, when the shore horse societies were founded in different parts of the country. And these stallions used to travel the farms in about May. They would be put to the mares on the farms. The mares were invariably not pure, but shore types. And by doing this, the shore horse would improve, and the colts which came from the resulting cross would be pretty well pure shires. These men who travelled these shires had a special route. They used to take and go around to the different farms in May, and they were some beautiful animals when they did come round. And at the fairs and the markets, these horses, or stallions, used to be on show. The local people always called them entires. These stallions were all decked up with the ribbons and that, and this man who used to take them round, he used to show them off and put them through their paces outside the market, you see. They'd go round with them. And the harness, of course, was made locally, made by a man named Mr. Hine at Beckford. He was an expert saddler. He served his apprenticeship at Winchcombe, and he could make everything that a horse wanted. And I've watched him absolutely intrigued for hours while he's been cutting out back buns and belly buns and hip straps and cruppers and things like that for the harness. And he was an absolute craftsman at his job. And really, I mean, when he made anything and sold it, he sold it with a wax end. You could absolutely be certain that it wasn't going to have any trouble with it. All the horses round our way that pulled the plough on the heavy clay land had got to have some weight about them. They'd got to have some constitution. There was no good having a sort of a nag type of thing to pull the plough on this heavy ground. If you were ridging a piece and he wanted the horses to turn to the right at the top, he'd shout, "Gee back, yet, 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 gee back," and they'd start going round to the right. He wanted them to come round to the left, and he'd start, come ye back, oh, come ye back, you know. If you wanted to go a bit fast, you just go, you know, just give him a bit of a click and then say, come on, boxer, come on, Turpin, come on, hip, boy, hip, hip. You keep going like that, you see, and then you get this whip, and with a bit of practice, you could make this thing crack, you see, and you just crack the whip. You didn't hit the horses with the whip, but you just crack the whip, and they knew. And they knew every word you said to them in time because, you know, just a slight whoa and they'd stop, or way back, or that, and they'd go a little bit steadier. You just say, talk to them a little bit, and they'd sort of lay their ears if they thought, you know, you were grumbling at them, and they knew, and they were very sort of knowledgeable beasts. And there's no doubt about it that the shire horse, it's absolute, I think it's criminal really to let it die out, because Once it's gone forever.
I have some memories of transport through Lechlade. Of course, 2 or 3 centuries ago, the stage coaches came through. One of their calls was at the Swan Hotel. And then came the construction of the Whitney-Fairford branch railway. Lechlade station was built in what was virtually a huge gravel pit of about 6 acres. The construction gang started there in order to excavate ballast for the formation of the track east and west. It's strange to relate, materials for this section of the railway were brought via the Thames and Severn Canal to Lechlade Wharf, and then hauled on horse-drawn wagons up to the depot just west of Lechlade Station. After the work had got on for a month or two, and a few sections of rails had been laid, my grandfather, who was a construction foreman, was sent with a gang of men, horses and wagons, carrying rails and sleepers, chairs, and all the tools, to Farringdon Station in Berkshire. Grandfather duly arrived at Farringdon Station. He was told by an official, "Mr. King, there's an engine with steam up, get it down to your depot at Lechlade." Grandfather told me on many occasions what an arduous, hard job he had. With his gang of men he laid the rails, steamed the engine on, halted, picked up the rails from behind, carried them forward, replaced them again, and so it took them 2 days to do the 6 miles to Lechlade, but ultimately they got it there, and that was the first steam locomotive to be brought into the East Gloucestershire Railway area. The railway was ultimately opened on the 14th of January 1873 with joyous celebrations. I've been told that all the school children were given a day's holiday and a free ride to Whitney in trucks decorated with flags and flowers and streamers, and then they were brought back again.
Mrs. Elliott, you told me about the canal, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you had Puck Mill in.
Yes.
When was that?
We went there in 1906. And in 1908 they had the canal they'd had a lot done, laid out thousands of pounds. And then they had the pounds done just out by our door. No sooner than that was done, it wasn't, in 1921 I think it was, they closed the canal after spending all that money because they hadn't had water in it.
No.
Well, then you see the boats that come up from Gloucester with a stone in them days. Of course, there wasn't the cars because there wasn't, but just started then, had they? And they'd come up there with a stone and get the other side of the tunnel. Well, of course, they did empty all those locks as they did go along. Look at the water they wanted. Well, then they had to wait the other side of the tunnel till all them locks did fill up again for them to swim into the lock, and then they did let the water out in the boat in the bottom and off go again. About every 2 mile there was a mill in them days. A grist mill. And then, of course, all this corn and all did come up on the boats.
Yes.
Everything did go through on the boats in them days, or nearly look, because, of course, there wasn't the cars and lorries like it is now.
Now, you were telling me that at Puck Mill, the pub was very near the lock, and there were some
Yes,
adventures
lots
went on because the door was too...
Well, as we walked in the door here, and then there was the gate, about as far as from here to the clock, and that was the towing path then, and the lock straight in front of our door there was. And sometimes he used to fill it with water and all run over. And once in a flood, I can remember, I went up in the middle of the night, we had a cow a calving, and I stood on our bank and I thought, oh dear, isn't it terrible? I could hear all these gates, all the water running over the gates and running out of the fields into the pound. Oh, it was terrible, and that was good, but there's never been a flood like it since.
You told me years ago how you used to go sort of down on the ice in the canal.
Oh, well, my daughter, when she used to go to Saberton School, she'd come all down them pounds on the ice of a night. She was telling you about how she had that old man. He was a poor old gardener. He'd been in the loch. He turned his boat over. And he had a lot of big timber. And he was up there all week getting that timber back out. Well, of course, there was no money for him till he got down to Smarts at Chalford. And he was out on the boat in the water. He couldn't get at her. So she kept on putting some snowballs at him. So when he come down to the puck mill, he said, bring us a pint, missus. I said, Flo, go and take Billy out a pint of ale. I been going out there, she said, he's going to eat her. Snowballing on him. She wouldn't go out.
Now, you were telling me that some of the people, when these barges used to come into your... that there was a lock, obviously.
Yes, and
they used to spend more or less the day there.
They'd get in the boat and lower their boat down to the bottom of the loch and get perhaps 10 quarts of beer or more and take it out there and drink it all night in the loch. We used to say, well, we got some neighbours tonight.
When you went on the barge, where was your journey from and to? Can you remember where you went to?
Letchlade Wharf to Bristol.
Did you actually go through Sapperton Tunnel yourself in a barge ever?
Oh, yes, we've been through there.
What was that like?
We used to put the donkeys in the barge, and Dad used to push us through. And then I had to help Dad wind up the wrenches, you call them, with chains on, to help him swing the timbers, long tree trunks, onto the wharves. And then other times I've had to run on in front and unwind the locks or wind them up, ready for the barge to go through.
Did you? All on your own?
All on my own.
And you were how old then, do you say?
About 8 years old then.
That's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah. And then to go and drive donkeys all night along the towing path when it was moonlight nights.
Drive them?
Yes, so Dad could get his bit of bonus money, see.
Mr. Pritchett, how long is it since the carrier's carts rumbled its way along to Cirencester?
Well, our family had 'em, and my dad had it, and his dad had it, and his dad before. Oh, must be 150, 200 years, I think we've been on the road.
Yes.
Must have been.
When was the last time, though, that the last wagon went?
Oh, I should think there's 1932, I should think. 1922, I think, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your carts used to go where, then?
Oh, Cirencester every day, see. That was our main business, Cirencester. Because the women used to have to go to shopping, and we used to bring everybody's shopping. There was many shops in this village then, Used to be Gillets, Cirencester, and Legs, and all them, see. We used to take their order in and bring the grocery back. Have a parcel much you could care for 6 shillings. 100 weight. Yes.
Now tell me what would happen. You would go in every day.
Every day.
Did you carry passengers?
Yes, anything. Barrels of beer, passengers, or any damn thing you like to ask us to.
How many people would use your van then?
Oh, you average a dozen every day.
What would be your fare you charge?
Sixpence.
Return or sixpence?
Return.
Mm-hmm.
Sixpence.
What was the most number of people that you've ever had on your car?
Well, there's mop times we had there, that's fair. You're in mop. You're in fair in there, see. You're a shepherd to be in there, see, a bit of wool up in his coat, and comb him a bit of a cow ear in, and a cart with a piece of whipcord. But if you wanted a cart or a comb, and I would hoist it on the thing, see, well, we've had 30, 40 folk in there, in that van. Used to put, there were seats all around, see, and used to put them down the middle and on the scratch and right on the top dude. Oh yes, yes, no mistake. That's the only way they got there, see.
Do you ever remember the canal farther up when it was working?
Yes, when I was a boy, I used to go up to Gardeners at Dunaway and take plain staves and plain blocks to Warwick. Round about June and July and like that, there's a weed as to grow in the canal what we used to always call frannel. Well, round that time of the year it would take you about 4 times as long to come up the canal, because as you did move in the canal, this frannel did roll up in rows and start to stop the boat. One had to be on the fore end with what we did call a shaft to poke it away from the bow of the boat before we could move.
Yes.
And the last boatload of coal that I brought up to Mr. Smart's wharf at Chalford, I left Stroud at 4:30 in the morning, and I didn't stop up here till Chopper church clock struck 6. The church clock did strike in them days. 6 o'clock at night. And I thought, well, this is too bad.
Mr. Crewe, tell me a bit about your omnibus that you used to have. This was rather an unusual vehicle, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was, but of course it was early days. It was for the Ministry of Transport or anything, and people round here had a job like to get to Cheltenham and like that, and so I started this, and then I thought myself, well, I'll make a fair good job of it. It was a Ford lorry, and it had sides and all too, and everything convenient for doing lorry work. And then I thought, well, I'll do this passenger work. And anyway, I went to a man at Gloucester, and I asked him if he could make me a top to go on the top. And he said, yes, I can do that. And he was a coach builder. And he made me a good body, and windows down the side and all, and the door, and it was a double floor, and it was quite good, and the people was quite in there. When they was in there, they was quite happy.
They have wooden seats, of course.
And yes, there was cushions. Oh yes, wooden seats, but he put cushions. It was made a good job. And I used to go round and do this passenger work. And then sometimes I used to find a lady led in the front, and her had too much, and her had a bottle of port by her. And she was led down, and I looked and seen this empty bottle by her, and I tried to wake her up, and she was too far gone. So I pushed her up on one side as well as I could so as the other passengers could get in. Well, then when we got back round to Beach Spike, we had to get her out there, and her had a distance to walk. And then she went a little way down the road, and then she puddled away to one side, and over she went onto the wall. Well, the policeman was there, coming down the road, and he noticed it was getting dark, and he went down to her, and he was going to summons her, but he didn't, because I think he thought there's too much trouble of getting her, because her had a mile to get home. And he thought as her'd get home all right, like leave her alone. So he come back and he said, oh, let her bide. I think as her get down when her just had a rest. And I said, oh, I'll be all right. I said, that ain't the first time her have done it. Her's used to it.